Let me welcome director Gia Coppola. And actor Keegan Allen. So I'm Lindsay Miller, an entertainment editor at Pop Sugar. So I'm going to ask a few questions and then we will open it up to the audience. So Gia, I want to start with you. First of all, congratulations to both of you because the film's been getting stellar reviews.
Thank you.
Yeah, now tell me about doing this at this time in your life, because I think 27 can feel really close to adolescence in some ways and really far away. So were you looking to, journals of your own and pictures you took at the time when you started writing this film?
Sadly, I never really kept any journals, but I felt like when I read James's book, I really connected with it because I had sort of already been reflecting on those awkward teenage years because I had just finished college, and so I had enough separation to kind of appreciate it or understand it a little bit better. Where when I was a teenager, it felt hard, I guess. But we shot April's bedroom is my bedroom from high school that my mom left untouched, and so I had that. And Jack's bedroom was, or Teddy's bedroom was Jack's bedroom, and looking on Instagram for inspiration. And but James's book was really truthful to those sort of emotions of that age.
And Keegan, can you talk a little bit about working with the cast? Because I heard that Gia put you guys through some interesting exercises. You were acting out each other's dreams. Is that right?
She wasn't really there for that part of the process,
okay.
But you can say what we did with your scene.
Yeah, no, it was really great. It was the first time that I had worked, with Gia like that before, and that just working with you was actually really interesting because she plants these little seeds in people's heads so that there is this awkward silence sometimes between the moments. It's very real. In fact, it kind of doesn't even feel like a scene at some points. It actually felt like pretty organic. You did that with Jack and Chris, right?
Oh yeah, with the Christmas scene. I feel like what's fun with actors, or at least that I enjoy, is like you kind of prank them and you tell one actor one thing and the other different. And so with the Christmas scene, Chris said, it was written one way, and Chris said like, oh, I think I should hit on him. I said, that's great, like I'm not going to tell Jack. And so Jack was genuinely like freaked out in that. And to this day, he is still really weirded out by Christmas scene. But with your scene, I think the boys were riffing on you and making fun of you, and then later they're like, wow, he was a really great actor, I had no idea. They thought
in between the takes it was really funny because Nat kind of got really, really method, put his earphones in, and he was just talking so much.
He had ice cubes in his shoes.
Yeah, he got really into it, and Jack we were all sitting in a car because it was freezing cold, we were all sitting in a car with the heater on.
I did. I got really mad.
Yes!
I got so mad.
Now, everybody,
Whoa! I'm so good with
need
coffee.
some chairs and some napkins. How about?
I heard there was a surprise guest, and I can't believe it's you.
I came from Dallas.
Fred!
I'm straight from Dallas. I'm soaking wet in coffee now.
Well, can we get some napkins also?
Sorry.
It's okay. It's worth it.
All good. Well, thank you guys for coming by. Nice surprise, right?
Yeah.
See how much we love each other?
Exactly. Well, now that you're here, Nat, I really did want to ask you about your song in the film, which plays in the credits.
You literally spilled coffee all over. Yeah.
Tell me about how that came about. Did you guys kind of collaborate on that, or?
I mean, it's a song that I had written that I thought was kind of had the same tone as the film. And sorry, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited that this movie is here. And
You waited a little bit
until you said something about me, and then I just ran. I was just waiting right
you
there.
planned that.
Yeah.
But Gia had asked me while we were shooting, hey, you know, Jason, my cousin, did a song in one of his movies. You know, he played a song at the party on piano, and I think it would be really funny if you did. And I think it would be really funny if you drank alcohol out of a vase. I said, yeah, sure.
I plucked like little moments from my friends, and they were really freaked out when they saw the movie because they noticed all these little things, and they're like, well, am I that character? Like, is that how you think of me? And I was really excited to show them the movie, but they were all just kind of weirded out. Like, I used their pickup lines, like you want to build a fort.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask all of you if there was maybe a moment in the movie or a character that really resonated with your own teenage experiences. Was there one thing that really spoke to you?
I definitely, well, the first way I got even connected with the film at all was because I did a reading with Gia. She asked me to just like read through it, and I read your role. And I gotta admit, like, even though it was like kind of like a pull the wings off of a fly kind of character, like it resonated with me. I think it resonated with me mainly because like at every point in like a teenager's life, there's that like angst and happiness is the enemy, and just totally like the darkest places in your head just come out. So I don't know. I really loved how that character was written because it's like it's fun, and I've known people like that. So
Yeah, and I thought what was interesting about the Fred character was that not only he was super dark, I found him weirdly charming. You know, in the movie, even though he's doing all these awful things, I found him sort of seductive. And when I had my first meeting with Gia, I said, I'm not this guy. I don't know if I can play this. And she said, no, I think you can do it.
Zoe, what about you? You feel something away down there?
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of what attracted me to the script, really, was that all the characters were really dynamic, and I think, you know, hopefully teenagers will be able to connect with each one of these characters, because Gia did such a good job in bringing so much life to all of them, and a lot of different sides, and especially, like, I know Emily and Fred, and I think actually Jack, too, was pulled from a bunch of different characters in the book. So it really made them dynamic and full.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine the hope for all of you with this movie is that it does resonate with actual teenagers. So has there been anything that's really stuck with you about how young people are reacting to this film now that you've started screening it?
I've been so happy to hear all the stories of just, you know, some of the 15-year-olds that have snuck into this movie and like, saying that it
That's
feels,
awesome.
yeah, I'm so happy. And that they're excited to have a movie that like depicts the way they're feeling and that they can connect to and feels authentic, I hope. And also a woman just the other night said that she was looking back at her journal and said that from high school and it was just years later it was still kind of this, we were picking up on the same sort of feelings that she was going through, you know, from a different generation. So, it's really special, and I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, and can you talk about the music in this movie? Because I think it's hard to overstate how important music is when you are growing up when you're a teenager. So was that something you started thinking about as far as the soundtrack and the score kind of right out of the gate?
I enjoy always kind of like listening to music and you know, finding kind of smaller bands that are out there. But with my editor, he kind of was putting these more temp tracks that were really more moody and emotional rather than kind of fun teenage music that you see in most movies today or TV shows. And when I met Dev, I was really excited by his kind of style, and it felt like something new, and that just sort of was missing in a lot of music today. And he was interested in scoring, and he has this interesting thing called synesthesia where you can visually see music, which is cool and kind of perfect if you want to compose music. But you know, I wanted something that was modern but classical at the same time, and then we did a Q&A not too long ago, and Dev said something really interesting where he was like, oh, I wanted to take the characters' emotions seriously and not belittle them, because it means a lot to them in that moment, and so to kind of convey that musically was interesting.
Yeah. Now, can you guys talk a little bit about collaborating with James Franco and what you each sort of took away from that process? Because of course he wrote the short stories that this film is based on, he produced it, and he acts in it as well.
Do you want me to go first?
Go first.
Go in order. Well, I guess with me, James was really helpful because he gave me a lot of freedom to have my own interpretation, but was very supportive at the same time. And this was a new experience for me, so he really took me through it kind of step by step, and told me kind of pick the stories that I like and write them in screenplay format and do sort of a test version of one of those with my friends. And so I really kind of learned a lot, and then obviously he's a director, so he was helpful when he was on set, and then he wrote the story, so he told all the actors the inspiration behind his characters and what his childhood was like, and so it was really kind of a luxury to have him around, and you know, he's talented in many different ways, so it was helpful.
I guess for me, I assumed that Teddy was James Franco as a teenager, and then when I got to meet him, we actually filmed a scene together that ended up in the movie. But I said to him when we were filming, I said, so because my character's not really in the book, and I said, so Teddy's, but there are characters like my character, and they all, and Gia kind of combined them. So I said to him, I think Teddy's supposed to be you, but who am I supposed to be? And he said, and he thought about it for a second, he's like, I think he's supposed to be like the devil version of me. And that really connected to me, and I realized, oh, those characters are kind of the same person in a certain way, like two sides of the same coin. And they both want the same thing, they just go about it differently. So that was extremely helpful.
Oh yeah, James is a really interesting character himself, and he wrote this book called California Childhood, and I had talked to him about who Skull was, and it was this guy named Maurice that he went to school with, and showed me pictures of him, and that he was like the sleazy dude, and so that was really cool to have a backstory about it. But yeah, he's a really collaborative person, but it's also really cool to have Gia, who wrote this and like kind of pulled this story from his stories. So both writers kind of, in a way, were there helping, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't really get to work with James much, but just reading his stories was really helpful for me, because Emily was a combination of a couple of different stories that Gia put together, and he also has this great skill of writing from a girl's perspective. He has this really empathetic viewpoint from a teenage girl's perspective. So, I thought it was really interesting that these stories resonated with me, and it was a male author. And Gia, the same stories that resonated with Gia resonated with me when I read the script, and I don't know, I just thought that was really cool, and I was just glad that I got to work on the material that he wrote.
What was really also interesting for me to see from my point of view is that this is like a generation underneath me. I mean, this is like, it really made me feel dated. Especially
you're ancient.
I felt ancient.
Keegan, you're old.
I felt so old, especially with all the lingo and everything that was on set. I was like totally old. But it was also interesting to see like that, even though this was based at a different time. This was like it's based at a current time, but it feels like a different time to someone like me, and it really shows through like this age of pit vipers, this like different generation. And that was also another interesting thing to kind of like live through, vicariously through all these characters.
Well, I'd love to open it up to the audience now. Does anybody have any questions? But you right in front.
Sure. Congratulations, Gia, and all of you. Excellent film. My question is about the Don Novella character, the art teacher. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he was in the book or not, but I just wanted to hear your take on, other than the I'm not Bob, how did you use him to tell the story?
Well, in the book, I think for James, that sort of he had an art teacher that was his mentor that meant a lot to him, and then really kind of steered him away from the wrong path, and he felt influenced by art, and that kind of helped him. But I guess I kind of viewed the dialogue or took it in a more kooky way, and I casted Don Novello, who's a great SNL
Father Guido Sarducci.
Father Guido Sarducci, and I got to know him really well on Twix, and he's just hilarious. But I mean, Don is a great improviser, and so I just let him take it away, and he did this whole skit with Nat, where he was just like riffing on like this "I'm not Bob" going down the wrong way, and we were all kind of like, what is he talking about? And it's a lot longer when it was in real life, when we actually shot it, but it was so great, and I was like, this parallels are ending a little bit, and we hadn't shot the ending yet, so later we tried, like, let's just see what happens if Nat says I'm not Bob, and it was interesting. It had a nice juxtaposition.
Yeah, Gia's really humble, but I think that is one of the examples of why she's such a great director. Because that was really, that happened in the middle of the shoot, and then we shot the end, I think about a month after we finished filming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we shot the end, and she just kind of whispered it to me before I did that scene, and she says, just say I'm not Bob. And actually, when I watched the movie, I spent so much time on this character, but when I watched the movie, I actually understood the character even more than I ever had, because I realized, oh, wait a minute, he is listening the entire time, he's pretending not to listen, but he is listening. And I think that's what's beautiful about this movie, is that the reason why I think people do respond to this movie is because all these characters have pain and they want to be better than they are. And it's in that line, he says, I'm not Bob, and originally when the guy says it, he's kind of like making fun of him, like, I'm not Bob, but really he's taking that in, he's going down the wrong way. Because everybody, nobody really wants to be going down the wrong way.
Okay, anyone else? Either, can you see who I'm pointing to? I can barely even see who's out there, so it looks like you're wearing a denim jacket. Yes.
Oh my gosh, okay, my heart's racing. I'd like to say, yes, I think you did hit what being a teenager's like on the nose.
Thank you.
Being one myself. And, wow, I forgot my question. Is there any advice you would give to an aspiring filmmaker, or anything you would wish you had known when you were 17?
We made this movie with, everyone that I was working with on my smaller projects, and so they were really just like my friends, and it was everyone's first movie, and we all pitched in, and no one, was assigned one role or another. We were all helping each other out, and I felt like we were like a family, and so it wasn't very intimidating, and I think just working with people that you're comfortable with, and I was already working with them on smaller stuff, so it was just like, you just keep, the technology today is really allowing you to just making things and just collaborating with your peers, and you get to know each other, and I find that collaborating is really the best part, and write a little every day and come up with a good story.
Can I hug you?
Yeah, afterwards.
Okay, who else out there? All right, red plaid shirt. She's gonna hold you to that too.
Hi, this question is primarily for Gia, but I would also love to hear Zoe's perspective as well. You guys talked a little bit earlier about how the characters of Teddy and wow, I just forgot. Fred were foils, sort of, in terms of like devil version James Franco. And I am interested to hear your perspective on the female characters in terms of specifically April and Emily, because it seems like April has this pure virginal sort of reputation, and Emily is the whore and it's like Virgin Madonna sort of thing, but they're both in a lot of turmoil. And I was interested to hear more about that
Good question.
from the writer's perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like Zoe should talk about her character. Do you want to go into
Yeah, well, I mean, when I read the script, you know, it's easy to look at Emily in this really sort of like pinpoint her down as just kind of being a school slut, and I kind of saw this different side to her, and I think Gia saw that side as well, this great vulnerability, and I think at that age a lot of girls are really insecure and they're looking to connect with, you know, either their peers or boys, and a lot of girls go about that in a different way, and you know, I knew girls in school who didn't have a lot of girlfriends but were known for like kind of putting out, and I thought that that's kind of an interesting dynamic, and I kind of wanted to explore that side because, you know, a lot of girls deal with their insecurities in different ways, so I mean, I think there's a connection between April and Emily because they both feel very alone and isolated, but they go about finding that connection in a different way. So, yeah, I mean, Gia did a great job of exploring both sides of that female character, I guess.
Yeah, like what Zoe said, that she you know, a lot of credit goes to Zoe because she's such a talented, soulful actress that she took that sort of character that can be cliche and the slut and added so much more depth to the reason why she was doing the things she was doing. And that was sort of similar with April, like why is she vulnerable enough to kind of get entangled with this older character, and I think that James's character is fulfilling her in ways that she's not necessarily getting at home, and she's put your phone on silent, mother. My mom's here. My mom plays April's mom in the movie.
She's great.
So good.
Yeah, and Mr. B is treating April in the way that, you know, he's viewing her as an adult, and that's sort of how she feels right now, even though, you know, she's not necessarily mature to that level, but he's sort of at her maturity level at the same time.
And I think we have time for one more quick question. All the way in the back, the person that jumped up, they really want it.
First of all, I just want to say I love you since like the Bigger Brothers fan. I just wanted to ask how you got into your character of Fred, because you said you weren't really like him, so I wanted to know how you kind of got into that mindset.
Thank you. That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like him, but I loved him. I mean, when I read the script, even though there was things that I hated about him, I felt myself weirdly loving him. And I think I just had to find, you know, I justified the things he did by finding a way to, by just assuming that he was this kid who just needed a ton of attention, you know, and he was just going to go about getting attention any way that he could. And obviously he wasn't getting attention for doing good things, so he started doing bad things. And it was really great to have a director like Gia to push me farther, you know, always to push me farther and say, you can go farther with that. Because as an actor, it's cooler and kind of easier to be smaller, and this was a character that wasn't small, you know, and I think I'm quieter and more awkward in real life, you know, so it was a process of finding that part of myself that I like to keep hidden, but that's definitely there, you know, that part that needs a lot of attention. But I'm so proud of this movie and so excited to see Gia and these guys. And we were just standing out there waiting to surprise them, and so happy that people are going to see it. So thank you guys for coming out.
Okay, one more round of applause for all these guys.